The Galactic Senate had governed the stars for 12,000 cycles. On this day, hundreds of alien representatives gathered in the Grand Circular Chamber. The discovery of Earth had caused great worry among them all. Taewon adjusted the glowing translator device on his collar. His crystalline body reflected the chamber's lights in beautiful patterns. As the senior representative of the crystalline hive, he had seen many new species join the Senate, but humans seemed different. The emergency session will now begin, announced the Senate speaker, a tall being whose skin shifted colors with each word. Holoscreens appeared around the room, showing images of Earth. Cities sprawled across continents. Vehicles moved through streets. Humans walked about their daily lives, unaware they were being watched. Ambassador Juri stood to speak. Her scaled wings caught the light as she folded them carefully behind her. "These humans appear primitive compared to our standards," she said. "Their technology is basic. They have barely explored their own solar system." Murmurs spread through the chamber as representatives discussed this assessment. Yet, Juri continued, raising a clawed hand for silence, "They have survived disasters that should have destroyed them. Their planet has faced climate shifts, resource wars, and diseases. Each time, they rebuild. They adapt." The holoscreens changed to show human history. Wars that scarred entire continents. Then, surprisingly, former enemies working together afterward. Technology advancing despite constant conflicts. "Most concerning is their rate of development," Juri added. "What took other species thousands of cycles, they achieve in mere decades." Council Elder Hyunki rose slowly from his hover chair. His long life had made him cautious. "We should continue observation only," he suggested, his deep voice carrying across the chamber. "These humans are unpredictable. We cannot determine if they would be friends or threats." Many representatives nodded in agreement. The usual protocol was to watch developing species for several generations before making contact. "What if they develop faster than we expect?" asked a representative from the gas giant worlds. "Their communication technology improves every cycle. They already search the stars for signals." The debate continued for hours. Some argued for immediate contact. Others wanted to hide all evidence of the Senate's existence. A few even suggested more extreme measures to contain the potential threat. Finally, they agreed to continue observation and decided to meet again in one standard cycle to reassess. But the humans surprised everyone. Just 3 lunar cycles later, Earth's largest radio telescopes detected signals from the Senate's observation vessels. The humans began broadcasting messages of greeting to the stars, asking if anyone was listening. "They know we're here," Taewon said during the emergency session that followed. "We must respond or risk appearing hostile." After much debate, the Senate approved first contact. They chose a neutral meeting location, an orbital station quickly assembled above Earth. They selected representatives from species that looked least threatening to humans based on Earth's entertainment media. The day of first contact arrived. The Senate representatives waited nervously as the human shuttle docked. Guards stood ready, though hidden, in case the humans reacted with violence. The airlock opened, and 5 humans entered the chamber. They were led by Representative Jiho, chosen for his diplomatic experience. Instead of fear or aggression, the humans showed excitement and wonder. "On behalf of Earth, we greet you in peace and friendship," Jiho said, smiling broadly. "We have hoped for this day throughout our history." The Senate representatives exchanged concerned glances. They had prepared for fear, for aggressive negotiation, even for violence. They hadn't prepared for eager enthusiasm. Jiho continued, "We have brought cultural artifacts to share, and we hope to learn about your science, your art, your histories. There is so much we can learn from each other." As the meeting progressed, the humans asked thoughtful questions. They offered to share knowledge freely. They invited Senate representatives to visit Earth. Later, as the humans toured the station, Taewon whispered to Juri, "Are they ingenious strategists playing a long game, or dangerously naive about galactic politics?" Juri watched the humans exclaiming with delight at each new alien they met, taking pictures, offering handshakes or bows. "I cannot tell," she replied. Perhaps that's what makes them most concerning. Neither of them knew which possibility worried them more, that humans were master manipulators hiding their true nature, or that they were genuinely this open and friendly in a galaxy where such behavior typically led to exploitation. Throughout the Senate, the debate had only just begun. 6 months after first contact, the Great Hall of the Senate Capitol Station buzzed with activity. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy had gathered to witness the arrival of Earth's first official delegation. The station was a massive structure floating in deep space, with towers and domes that housed representatives from 17,000 worlds. 5 humans entered the hall, walking slowly down the center aisle. Many alien species leaned forward in their seats, curious to see these newcomers up close. Some used special viewing devices to examine the humans' every detail. Ambassador Eun-ji led the group. She wore a simple blue uniform with Earth's new planetary emblem, a circle showing all continents surrounded by stars. She walked with confident steps despite being surrounded by creatures of all shapes and sizes, some towering 3 times her height. "Greetings to the Galactic Senate," Eun-ji said, her voice carried through the hall by translation devices. "Earth is honored to stand among you today." Behind her stood her team, the scientists Daehyun and Sumin, who kept glancing around with barely contained excitement, cultural attaché Woojin, who carried a large case of gifts, and security officer Hajun, whose eyes constantly scanned the crowd. Woon-ji opened her hands in a gesture of peace. "We come seeking friendship and knowledge. Earth wishes to learn from your wisdom and contribute what we can to this magnificent community of worlds." The Senate Speaker, a being composed mainly of light and gas, floated forward. "The Senate acknowledges Earth's delegation." "Your gifts?" Woojin stepped forward and opened the case. Inside were works of human art, paintings, sculptures, and digital displays showing Earth's natural wonders. Music played softly, a collection of styles from across human cultures. "Most significantly," Eun-ji continued, "we offer open access to our medical research database. While our technology may seem basic to many of you, our biological sciences might offer new perspectives." This announcement caused whispers throughout the hall. Most new species guarded their knowledge carefully, offering only limited exchanges after years of negotiation. Security Director Minsu watched from a private booth above the hall. His tentacles tapped rapidly on his data pad. "They're giving away valuable information without securing any benefits first," he noted to his assistant. "This must be a strategy we don't understand." After the formal welcome, the humans were given quarters on the diplomatic level. But they spent little time there. Each day, they wandered different sections of the station, meeting representatives from as many worlds as possible. Daehyun spent hours with the engineers of the gas giant worlds, discussing atmospheric sciences. Sumin visited medical facilities, sharing human healing techniques while learning alien ones. Woojin organized cultural exchanges, teaching human music to interested aliens. Even Hajun, despite his security role, joined training sessions with Senate Defense Forces, trading combat techniques. "They're collecting information from every sector," Minsu reported during a security briefing. His skin had darkened with concern, his species' way of showing worry. Senator Yuna, whose pink fur rippled gently as she spoke, disagreed. "Yes, they gather knowledge, but they share just as freely." The scientist Daehyun showed the Methane Collective how to improve their atmospheric processors. "That's valuable technology he gave away. It could be employed to gain trust," Minsu insisted. Their debate was interrupted by alarms. A waste reclamation system in the lower levels had malfunctioned, threatening to release toxic gases into a residential area housing hundreds of beings. By the time Senate emergency teams arrived, they found the humans already there. Hajun had forced open stuck doors. Daehyun and Sumin had reprogrammed the system. Eun-ji and Woojin were helping evacuate vulnerable species. Together with station staff, they prevented a disaster. When the Senate Speaker later held a ceremony to honor them, the humans looked uncomfortable with the attention. "We were just helping out," Eun-ji said. Anyone would have done the same. This response confused many senators. In the competitive world of galactic politics, most species would have used such heroism to gain favors or concessions. Later that cycle, during a diplomatic gathering, a Thraxian diplomat approached the humans. Thraxians were known for their direct, often insulting communication style. "Your species is barely out of its evolutionary cradle," the Thraxian said to Unji, clicking its mandibles. "You have no place among advanced civilizations." The room grew quiet. Many expected an angry response or diplomatic incident. Instead, Unji smiled. "You must know so much that we could learn from. Would you share a meal with me? I brought traditional foods from Earth. I'd value hearing about your civilization's development." The Thraxian seemed startled but agreed. What was planned as a brief, polite exchange became a 3-hour dinner. By the end, the Thraxian was explaining human jokes to other diplomats and had invited Unji to visit the Thraxian homeworld. In his private quarters, Minsu added to his report, "This technique is unsettling. They turn criticism into friendship, transform potential enemies into allies. If this is a strategy, it is unlike any we have encountered before." The Senate's assessment team continued to watch the humans closely, increasingly perplexed by a species that seemed to operate by entirely different rules of interaction than the rest of the galaxy. The emergency alert chimed through the Senate's grand chamber, interrupting formal trade negotiations. On the massive central screen appeared the desperate face of a verdant colonist, skin pale green with black spots, signs of advanced infection. "Please," the colonist gasped, "our mining colony needs help. The pathogen spreads too fast. 8,000 already dead. Our medical systems are overwhelmed." The image showed crowded medical facilities. Bodies wrapped in containment fields. Workers collapsing in tunnels, their skin rapidly changing color. Chief Arbitrator Jinho rose from his seat. His ceremonial robes, indicating his position as the Senate's highest legal authority, shimmered as he moved to the central platform. "The situation is unfortunate," Jinho stated, his voice calm and measured. "However, the verdant mining colony falls outside our protection treaty boundaries. They established their operation without proper Senate authorization." Senators murmured in agreement. The rules were clear. "Our risk assessment models do not justify intervention," Jinho continued. "The pathogen appears highly contagious with significant mortality rates. Sending teams would endanger our medical personnel for an unsanctioned colony." In the visitors' gallery above the main floor, the human scientists Daehyun and Suman exchanged glances. They had been observing Senate procedures to learn about galactic governance. Now they quietly left their seats. 3 hours later, Senator Kyung-soon burst into an executive session, his usually neat fur standing on end in agitation. "The humans have launched ships toward the verdant colony," he announced. 3 medical vessels with full crews. The chamber erupted in confusion. Jinho called for order by striking his ceremonial staff against the floor. "They have no authority to intervene in Senate space," Kyung-soon continued. "This violates at least 7 interstellar protocols." "They didn't ask for any authority," replied Senator Yuna, who had become something of an advocate for the humans. "They simply saw suffering and decided to help." "This could be interpreted as an aggressive action," warned another senator. "Unauthorized ships entering disputed territory." "Medical ships," Yuna interrupted. "Unarmed medical ships." The Senate quickly established an observation team to monitor the situation. Sang-hee, a respected neutral observer, was dispatched with recording equipment. The verdant colony was located on a moon rich in rare minerals. Its atmosphere had been partially terraformed, creating a thin breathable air under domed settlements. When Sang-hee arrived, the situation was worse than reported. The human vessels had landed near the main settlement. Teams in protective suits moved quickly between buildings. They had set up field hospitals in the colony's central square. Sang-hee sent regular updates to the Senate. "The humans work in continuous shifts," he reported. "They appear to have no concern for standard safety protocols. When their protective suits tear in the rough conditions, they simply seal them with temporary patches and continue working." Most surprising was when the humans discovered something unexpected. Their medical tests showed that human blood contained proteins that could fight the pathogen. Without hesitation, the medical teams began donating their own blood to create treatments. Security Officer Hajun, who had come with the emergency response, was the first to volunteer. Soon all humans were giving blood between their work shifts, looking increasingly tired but continuing without complaint. "I don't understand," Sang-hee commented in his report. "They are weakening themselves in a potentially hostile environment." The situation became even more complex when the colony leader revealed to the humans that a rival mining faction had likely created and released the pathogen deliberately, a serious violation of galactic law. The humans show no reaction to this information, Sang-hee reported, clearly puzzled. They continue treating all patients, including those from the rival faction who initially fired warning shots at their vessels when they arrived. When asked about this, the human doctor simply replied, "Sick people are sick people. Politics doesn't change that." By the time Senate reinforcements finally arrived with proper authorization and equipment, the humans had already established control over the outbreak. They were teaching colonists how to produce vaccines using local resources and basic equipment. 1 week later, in the Senate Executive Chamber, Jinho reviewed the final reports. The room was unusually quiet as the statistics appeared on screen. 43,622 colonists saved, read the report. All human response team members infected due to protective equipment failures. 2 human fatalities, Medical Officer Park Jimin and Supply Coordinator Kim Do-yoon. Jinho looked up from the report. "This behavior defies rational analysis," he stated. "They had no obligation to these colonists. They knew the dangers. They had no authority. Yet they risked and lost their own lives for strangers. It's not rational," Senator Yuna agreed quietly. "Not if conquest or advantage is your goal." She looked around the chamber at her fellow senators. "But perhaps they have different goals than we assumed." The chamber remained silent as the implications settled over the gathered representatives. The humans had broken every protocol, ignored the careful political balance of the Senate, and disregarded their own safety, all to save lives the Senate had deemed not worth the risk. For many senators, this was more unsettling than any show of force could have been. It suggested a value system they didn't understand, and therefore couldn't predict or control. The inner council chamber was the most secure room in Senate space. Located at the heart of the Capitol station, its walls contained technology that blocked all signals and prevented any recording. Only 12 beings, the most powerful representatives in the galaxy, had access to this room. Today, they gathered around the central table as Intelligence Director Junho prepared his presentation. His blue skin looked pale under the lights, a sign of stress in his species. "I've completed my analysis of human history and behavior," Junho began. "My findings are troubling." He activated the holographic display in the center of the table. Images of Earth appeared: cities destroyed by bombs, armies marching, weapons of increasing deadliness. "Like many species, humans wage devastating wars against each other," he explained. "They create weapons specifically designed to kill their own kind." The council members nodded. This was expected behavior for an emerging species. But then, Junho continued, "They do something unusual." The display changed to show humans rebuilding cities, not just their own, but their former enemies. Hospitals being constructed in lands they had conquered. Food and medicine delivered to those who had fought against them. After their largest planetary conflict, the winning powers spent enormous resources rebuilding their enemies' territories, Junho said. They established new governments, provided technology and funding, and created alliances with those they defeated. Elder Counselor Kwansu leaned forward, his ancient eyes narrowing. "Strategic control. Many species do this." "No," Junho replied. "They withdrew their forces after rebuilding. They created independent allies, not subjects." He changed the display again. "Their economic system shows similar contradictions. They compete ruthlessly for markets and resources. Companies destroy each other for profit. Yet they establish safety regulations that protect their competitors. They create laws that limit their own advantages." The room was silent as the council considered these patterns. Cultural analyst Sunmi stepped forward. Her small stature belied her importance as the Senate's leading expert on species behavior. "They're most dangerous when being kind," she said. "I've tracked the political changes since humans began interacting with Senate worlds. Every species that has received human assistance now advocates for them in Senate proceedings." She displayed a chart showing voting patterns. The Thoraxians, who have maintained isolation policies for 2000 cycles, have offered humans a permanent embassy on their homeworld. This is unprecedented. The implications became clearer as the analysis continued. Humans weren't building influence through traditional means of conquest, threat, or economic control. They were gaining allies through genuine assistance and friendship. "Look at their pattern with less developed worlds," Sunmi continued. "They provide medical technology without taking resource rights. They offer education without demanding political alignment. They share agricultural improvements without requiring exclusive trade agreements." Director Junho stepped forward again. "The Senate has maintained galactic stability through carefully balanced power structures. Each major species controls certain sectors, resources, or technologies. No one gains too much advantage. This balance has prevented large-scale conflicts for millennia." "And the humans threaten this balance?" asked Counselor Teijin, his voice rumbling from his massive chest. "Yes, but not in the way we expected," Junho replied. "They're making the entire system irrelevant." He displayed a new map of the galaxy, with certain systems highlighted. The verdant mining colony now publicly calls itself a human protectorate despite having no formal arrangement with Earth. When questioned, their leader said, "The humans came when no one else would." That means more than any treaty. Sunmi touched the display, expanding the highlighted areas. 17 other systems have made similar declarations this quarter. Some have never even had direct contact with humans, they've simply heard stories. The council members shifted uncomfortably. This was unlike any threat they had managed before. "What do the humans gain from this behavior?" asked Counselor Micha. "Resources? Territory? Military advantage?" "As far as we can determine," Junho said slowly, "nothing specific. They appear to genuinely value connections with other species. They express curiosity about different cultures. They seem to measure success by how many beings they help, not by what they acquire." "Impossible," muttered Kwansu. "No species evolves such behavior naturally." "And yet," said Sunmi, "all evidence suggests this is their natural inclination. They form bonds easily, even with beings completely unlike themselves. They risk their lives for strangers. They forgive enemies." The display changed to show a network of connections forming between previously unaligned systems, all centered around human influence. "They're creating the strongest coalition in Senate history," Junho concluded, "and I don't think they even realize they're doing it. While we watched for military buildup or economic manipulation, they've been building something much more powerful, genuine loyalty." The council chamber fell silent. The galaxy's most powerful beings stared at the growing network on the display. For the first time in thousands of cycles, they faced an approach to power they didn't understand and therefore couldn't easily counter. "If they're not seeking dominance," Counselor Micha finally asked, "what do they want?" No one had an answer. The Grand Senate chamber was filled to capacity. All 17,000 member species had sent representatives to vote on Resolution 7B92, restrictions on human activity in Senate space. Security forces lined the walls, their weapons visible, a rare sight in the chamber. Chief Arbitrator Jinho stood at the central podium, his ceremonial staff glowing with the ancient symbols of Senate law. "The resolution before us would require all human vessels to carry Senate observers. Humans would need special permission before offering aid to any world. Their diplomatic presence would be limited to major Senate hubs," Jinho explained. "The Intelligence Directorate believes these measures necessary for galactic stability." In the human section, Ambassador Unji sat calmly with her small team. They made no protests, though the resolution would severely limit their activities. Before the vote, Jinho continued, "We will hear testimony as required by Senate law." A line had formed at the speaker's platform. The first to step forward was a verdant colonist, his green skin still showing faint black spots from the pathogen that had nearly killed him. "My name is Tol Nar," he began. "The humans gave me a second name. They call me an honorary citizen of Earth. When the sickness came to our colony, the Senate decided we weren't worth saving." His voice remained calm, but his words caused murmurs through the chamber. "The humans came anyway. They gave their blood to make medicine. 2 of them died saving us." He stepped down, and another being took his place, small, with shimmering scales and 6 limbs. "I represent the aquatic colonies of the Outer Rim," she said. "When our water purifiers failed, our children began dying. We sent requests for technical assistance to our sector representatives. They demanded mining rights in exchange." She paused. "The humans arrived 3 days later. They didn't negotiate. They simply fixed the purifiers. Then they taught our engineers how to maintain them." One after another, representatives from 30 different species, most considered minor powers in Senate politics, shared similar stories. "They taught our children mathematics without demanding resource rights," said a fuzzy being from a small agricultural world. "They provided medicine for a disease our own kind created," added another. "They defended our ships from pirates when we couldn't pay the Senate protection fees," said a trader from the outer systems. As the testimony continued, Jinho glanced at Intelligence Director Junho, seated among the inner council. The pattern was becoming clear to everyone in the chamber. These weren't calculated political maneuvers. The humans genuinely wanted to help. When the testimonies finished, Jinho called for the vote. The massive display above the chamber showed the results in real time. The rejection of the resolution was stunning, it failed by the largest margin in Senate history. Later, in the diplomatic reception hall, beings from hundreds of worlds mingled. Many gathered around the human delegation, sharing stories or asking questions. Jinho stood by a large window overlooking the stars when Ambassador Unji approached him. Her simple blue uniform stood out among the elaborate robes and exoskeletons of the other diplomats. "We were concerned you misunderstood our intentions," she said softly. Jinho considered her words before responding. "We did," he admitted finally. "The Senate has existed for 12,000 cycles. In that time, we've seen countless species rise and fall. All sought power in some form, territory, resources, technological advantage. We judged you by those standards. But those standards don't apply to us," Unji said. "No," Jinho agreed. "Your species doesn't seek dominance in the ways we understand." Unji looked out at the stars. "Earth was alone for so long. We dreamed of finding others among the stars. Now that we have, why would we waste time trying to dominate? The universe is too wonderful and too dangerous to face alone." Jinho followed her gaze across the reception hall. Species that had been enemies for millennia were now talking freely, sharing ideas. Near the center of the room, the human scientist Daehyun was showing a group of young aliens from different worlds how to play a simple Earth game. For thousands of cycles, the Senate maintained peace through carefully balanced power and fear, Jinho said. "You've transformed our approach in less than 1 cycle." "Not through any grand plan," Unji replied. "We simply treated everyone as worthy of friendship." Jinho nodded slowly. "Perhaps that is what we found most concerning of all, how easily your approach succeeded where our complex systems struggled." As they watched the gathering, a small verdant child approached Unji with a gift, a crystal that glowed with the colors of Earth's oceans. The ambassador knelt to accept it, speaking gently with the child. Jinho realized then why humans were truly the most unsettling species the Senate had ever encountered. They hadn't needed to conquer the galaxy. They had simply made it better by being kind. And that had changed everything.